that tell the body what to do. Hormones are signaling molecules that tell what's going on in the body. So if you have like a really high level of aldosterone, that means that you need to hold on to sodium so that you can keep your volume up, blood volume. And and these hormones talk to every cell in your body. They're not just like going to specific parts, they're going to every cell in your body. There are other types of hormones that only work very locally. They just work locally, like the nitric oxide. You've heard of that to dilate blood vessels. That's a very local kind of thing. And then there are some that only work. They're called paracrine. They only work in the cell next door. they the one talking to the guy next door, and that's the paracrine hormone. And then there's peptide hormones, and peptide hormones can be a lot of different kinds. They can be paracrine hormones, they can be general hormones, or they can be just tissue hormones. And so, one peptide hormone that everybody knows about is called insulin. Insulin is a peptide hormone, and that peptide means it's made out of a protein. It's amino acids. An interesting thing about amino acids is they don't last very long in the body. They're uh, they're broken down in a short period of time. So these are signals like turning on a light switch. Um, Whereas something like the steroid hormones are more like a general over a period of time. So if you have if you have the lights on all the time, that one light that doesn't even have a switch, that's just always on, outside, that keeps the outside lit up. That's more of the steroid hormone. Peptide hormones are for immediate use. So let's give an example: insulin. Insulin, when you eat, you want a lot of insulin because you want to be able to bring that glucose into your cells. And then as soon as you're done eating, you want that insulin to drop and go away. So you don't want it for hours and hours and hours. What would happen if you had insulin for hours and hours is your blood sugar would go down, 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 and keep going down until you had hypoglycemia, and you'd be going, oh, I hate after I eat. I get so tired and weak, and it's so hard. I get a headache, and I'm shaky and nervous, and I can't even think straight. And in order to avoid that, the body has a very rapid breakdown for these peptide hormones. And that's really important. If you had a glucagon, another peptide hormone, goes to the liver and it tells the liver, hey, make more glucose. And so the liver goes out and just puts out a whole bunch of glucose out there. And if this was lasting for hours, then you'd just be putting out glucose until your blood sugar went way up and up and up and up, and it wouldn't stop. So these are light switches. They're on, they're off, done. On, off, done. Okay, so let's look at GLP-1. Is glucagon-like peptide number one, GLP, glucagon-like peptide. So glucagon is a peptide that we already said what it does. It tells your liver to make more glucose. And then there's a GLP-1 that has more effects than that. It has effects in your brain to tell your brain, okay, you're done. You're not hungry anymore. Done. Quit eating. And it also tells your stomach, slow down. You don't have to go. You don't have to push everything out so fast. Just let it go. So these peptides are released after you eat, and what you're eating goes down into your small intestine, and your small intestine makes this peptide and tells everything, okay, slow down, and tells the brain you're done eating, and it also tells your liver to put out glucose, and it tells the pancreas not to make too much insulin. So it actually slows down the amount of insulin. I'm sorry, no, it tells the liver to make more insulin so that it actually increases the insulin, slows down the stomach, and increases the insulin. So think of all of those things that it's doing. Why do we gain weight? Well, there's only one hormone that tells us to gain weight. It's insulin. If you have high insulin, you're going to gain weight. If you have low insulin, you're not going to gain weight. So the nice thing about these peptides, this GLP-1, is it only tells you to make insulin when you're eating. When you're not eating, it doesn't tell the pancreas to make insulin. So you don't keep having high insulin levels. And it tells your brain you're done. And so for all that, a lot of people have come to me and they've asked about, well, can I just have a GLP-1 so that I don't have the food noise in my stomach in my head all the time that's going that's going, oh, there's food. Where's the food? There's food? Oh, I gotta have food. All that food noise is continuously telling your brain or continuously telling your brain continuously telling your body to eat something, eat something, eat something. And it tends to shut off that food noise. And so that's something that people really like about these peptide hormones. Do they work? Yes, they work. They work the same way they work in real life. Like you're not injecting them, you make them yourself, and when you make it, it works too. It does the same thing. It says, okay, I'm done eating. But the problem is, remember, it's like a light switch. It goes on, it goes off. 10 minutes later, like it goes on, 10 minutes later, it goes off. So, so in 10 minutes after eating, you're going, I'm hungry. Where's the food? Because you no longer have that off switch, that GLP-1. So what they did for these GLP-1 agonists is they put some um, amino acids on there that prevent it from being broken down. So instead of being a light switch where it goes on and off in 10 minutes, these stay on. They continuously stimulate the GLP-1 receptors for a week. That's why it's a 1 week at a time injection. You get a week, it turns on the switch and leaves the light on for a whole week, never turns it off. And then the next week, you get another injection and the light's on for a whole week. It never turns it off. And then you get another one, same thing, keeps going, and it keeps it on, which is great because the food noise goes away. You're done, right? And your stomach, it slows down and you're not really hungry because, you put something in there, it doesn't empty very fast. Some people get nausea from that. It's kind of like morning sickness, when a woman gets pregnant, progesterone slows down the intestines and the stomach the same way the GLP-1 does. And so that morning sickness is what is the the signal or the lack of movement of the stomach. So some people, when they get the injections, they get that nausea. And some people actually get gastroparesis. I've seen one case of that. And gastroparesis means the stomach stops working, it just doesn't work at all. So you eat something, and 8 hours later, it's still in there. It's still in your stomach. It hasn't moved down into the small intestine.
Is that
You're not
permanent?
what's that?
Is that permanent?
It can be,
Ooh,
and that's a big problem. And because a lot of people that are using these for weight loss also have diabetes, and diabetes can cause gastroparesis as well. There's diabetic gastroparesis, so there's a relationship there. So people think, oh, that's great. If my stomach's not working, I can eat, I can be full all the time, and then I won't have to eat anything, and I'm going to lose weight. Well, yeah, you're going to lose weight, but this is not the way to lose weight. This leads to deficiency diseases and problems. It's really uncomfortable. It's not to be nauseated all the time. It's terrible. So it's not something that you want. Um, so is that so far it's all upside, right? People lose an average of like 20 pounds, and it takes several months, and it works for about um, a year ish. So you get injections every month, and after a year, it starts slowing down and doesn't work as well. And then after about 2 years, it's pretty much run its course completely. Why? Well, because normally you have a light switch. It turns on, it turns off. It turns on, it turns off. If you leave that light all the time, it's going to burn out. And that's what happens. The light burns out, and then it doesn't work. So you quit losing weight. Well, apparently, so far, if you stay on it, you don't gain the weight back very easily. Some do gain some back. Um, but when you go off it, you gain it back pretty quickly. So 2/3 of the people after 1 year have gained all the weight back that they lost when they were on it. And then some gain more back after that. So there's a couple of things that are big problems with this, and that is it's not a long-term solution. It's really a short-term solution. It's not a bad short-term solution either. It's just a short-term solution. So I had a patient that wanted to lose 20 pounds. That's all. She wasn't really overweight. She was just a little overweight. She wanted to lose 20 pounds, and she said the food noise was killing her. Like it was a constant problem. So she got tirzepatide, and she started doing the injections, and she said it was so great. The food noise went away. She was a busy person. She went about her work and did everything and ate like normal and didn't have any problems with it. Lost the 20 pounds, and then she went off it. And she hasn't gained the 20 pounds back. And she said the food noise isn't a problem anymore. And it was
How long was
only
she on it, do you think? Like
about
how?
2 months.
Oh, good.
Uh,
So
two,
short. Okay.
so once a week for about 2 months.
Hmm.
And after 10 pounds a month is not unusual. And so that worked really well for her. So it's a short-term solution. If you have a long-term problem, it's not a long-term solution. So now we don't know what's going to happen because this is just recently that she stopped using it. So we don't know if she's going to get it all back or not. But
Right.
statistically, it's likely. But if she can eat small amounts and keep her diet up and do well with that, then she can. Um, However, there's one other issue that is becomes a problem, and that is these when you're losing weight, you're losing about 60% of the weight you lose is fat, and about 40% to 45% is muscle. So a lot of the weight you're losing, almost half the weight you're losing is muscle. And that's a problem because when you go back and you're off it and you say, okay, I lost my 30 pounds, 40 pounds, whatever, and then you start gaining weight again, all you gain back is fat. You don't gain muscle. And the reason is because what the GLP-1 does is shut down the anabolic metabolism. So you're not muscle building, you're actually muscle wasting. And that's why it does that in the first place. So an interesting statistic, okay, you guys are going to be really interested in this. Okay, so I already said about 40 to 45% of the weight you lose with the GLP-1s is muscle because of the anabolic metabolism drop. If you were to go on a low calorie diet, let's say you did a 500 calorie a day diet and you were doing the HCG diet, for example, where they're injecting in 500 calories a day, and you're losing weight like crazy, and that was good. You lose about 25% of the weight in muscle mass. So lean body mass is on a low calorie diet is about 25%.
That's a big
Where
difference,
Yeah, that's a big difference.
right?
Okay, so now check this out. If you're fasting, that means no food at all. About 9% of the weight you lose is lean body mass.
Ooh,
So over
9%.
90%, over 90% is fat if you're fasting. Why? Here's the thing. Remember I told you the problem is insulin? That's still the problem with weight gain, weight loss, or anything. If you have insulin, insulin blocks your body from using fat for energy. So what happens is your glucagon comes out and starts using your protein, your muscles for energy, because
Mm.
the muscles can be taken out. The protein is made into sugar. So it's actually glucose. So you're raising your blood sugar by using up your muscles and not burning fat. Whereas when you're fasting, you stop making insulin. There's zero insulin being made so that you don't use or you use very little muscle for energy. And 90% plus is what you're using is fat. So just like that statistic is very interesting. Plus, when you're fasting, you go into anabolic metabolism, which is the rebuild and repair metabolism. And so when you start eating again, the first thing you do is get your muscle back. That's the first thing. Before you even get any fat, you get your muscle back. Whereas you don't with Wegovy and the GLP-1s because they shut down the anabolic metabolism. So that's another issue that you should be concerned about because when you've lost muscle, it is hard to gain it back. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of exercise and a high protein diet. And it's something that you have to work at and, take creatine and all that stuff to get this working. So the GLP-1s, they're great. They work. They're a short-term solution. Do not look at them as a long-term solution and be very careful for losing your lean body mass.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. You talked about GLP-1s being a hormone. Are all those injectables on the market with one hormone? Like you hear Wegovy and Ozempic, but then tirzepatide. Are they all the same? I guess is what I'm asking. Or
No, no, they're not all the same. So for example, semaglutide works just on GLP-1, whereas tirzepatide works on two. It works on the GIP as well. So GLP-1 and GIP. And now there's a new one out. I'm blanking on the name of it. That has three. It works also on it shuts down glucagon, so your liver can't make glucose either. So those are that one's mostly used for diabetes, and it seems to work better. So, but yes, those are all. There's a lot of different peptide hormones, a lot of them, and these work on those one, two, or three of them.
wow.
Very interesting stuff. So I know of someone that lost quite a bit of weight on one of them, and I think about 50 pounds. And I think it was a fairly fast weight loss, and she lost a bunch of hair. Like, is hair loss common? I mean, and she's having a I think she's still probably on it, but she's having a hard time with the hair growth. It's very thin and it just changed.
Um, the hair loss isn't part of the GLP-1. It isn't part of what the hormone does. The hair loss is because of protein malnutrition. So
Mm.
remember, the protein is being taken out to be made into glucose, and when your insulin is high and you can't use fat for energy, then you need glucose. And because your brain has to use either fat, which the brain doesn't use fat, but the ketones that are made from the fat, the brain can use. And then, or it has to use glucose. And if there's no fat being burned, it has to use glucose. So then it'll take all the proteins out. And so yes, the protein levels in the body go down, and um, let's see, the protein levels go down, and then the muscle mass and hair too, all of that because you have less protein.
I've also heard people losing their gallbladder as a result of GLP-1.
Yes, that's another thing that it does. It kind of turns off the gallbladder too. It turns off the stomach and it can turn off the gallbladder. And so the gallbladder fills up, makes stones. It doesn't work, so it has to be removed.
No big deal.
It happens.
Now, for those, are all of them all the GLP-1s created equally? Are they manufactured in the US? Who is authorized to produce them, sell them? Is it safe? Do you need a prescription? Sorry, those are a lot of questions, but
Yes, you have to have a prescription. They're all prescription medications. They're made in the US generally. Of course, you can get them from other countries now too. There's people that are trying an oral dosing instead of injectable. Because they're peptides, they're broken down in the stomach. Uh, so that's why they have to be injected, kind of like insulin. You can't just eat insulin. But they're encapsulating them to withstand the stomach acid to go through and then be released in the intestines where they can be absorbed the same way your natural GLP-1 is. Um, but these last for a week instead of your natural GLP-1 that lasts for 10 minutes, kind of thing.
I
And so, yeah, they're generally, there's a lot of different types and formulations and ideas of how to work it now. There's the microdosing. Some people are taking, a tenth of the dose, just to have just a little stimulation instead of, a lot of stimulation. So it doesn't drop the blood sugar and everything. Um, it may work. There's some studies that show that might be useful doing microdosing, but this jury's still out on that one.
I've heard doctors talk about being able to offer it at a less expensively if they use a compounded version. What does that mean? What are they doing?
What it is, if you go to a compounding pharmacy, the compounding pharmacy buys it in bulk. So they get like grams and grams of it. And they put it into the pills, the injections, they make them. So for example, people who are doing the microdosing, and that's one way they do it. They go to a compounding pharmacy. So that the normal pen is going to have your 0.25 to 0.5 to 1 milligram ish. And these are microdosing at 0.05. So that each injection is a tenth of what you might get in a regular injection.
Okay.
Are they good for mental health? Like someone who's losing weight might be so proud, they're losing weight, they feel better. So their mental health might improve, but is it chemically good for your mental health?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't read any studies on its effect, the GLP-1 effect on mental health. It does affect the brain, at least the hypothalamus, because that's what turns off the I'm hungry, the food noise.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from the food noise, I don't know. You mean like for depression, anxiety, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or cause it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
either way.
Sib in the chat wanted to know a little follow-up. I think it was about you said one of your patients that had lost the 20 pounds. Do you believe that this person's been able to keep the weight off after the 2 months because of discipline or perhaps something else? Like, why do you think she's keeping it off?
Well, she's generally a person that eats well. She has a good diet, and she's a very active person. She's running all day long, kind of that kind of person. So, I think up to now, she's kept it off. It's only been a couple of weeks since she stopped it. So, I don't
You
know.
have
What
to
does that
keep us
mean?
posted.
I have to. Yeah.
Hmm. Go ahead, Cheryl. I can see you're ready to say something.
So, I just did a quick research, and some say mental health effects, persistent sadness or hopelessness,
Oof.
loss of interest in activities, changes in sleep or appetite, thoughts of self-harm or suicide
Oh boy.
while taking these medications. I guess I can imagine like all of a sudden you don't have brain food. You're basically stripping your body of the food it needs to survive. I just wonder, like, yeah, I might get depressed if I wasn't eating anything. I wouldn't have that stimulation your brain needs to work.
That's a good point. Oh, that's right. I did read about that because it affects the dopamine. You don't. That's the part of the brain that says I'm done eating, and you don't have that dopamine response anymore. Like when I eat, I feel so good. You don't get that anymore. So yeah, that's a good point.
Interesting. Oh my goodness. All right. So, we're getting ready to start your questions. So make sure you're getting those in the chat. Before we start your questions, though, I do want to give a shout out. I just looked at some of the attendees. I'm not going to say your last name. I don't want to, I want to make sure I protect your privacy, but we have three people here today that have been with us since 2019. So we've got Wigbert,
Longer than me.
yeah, Wigbert, Trisha, and Bob. So they registered back in 2019. So thank you so much for being here for the long haul. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Yes. All right, let's go into some of our Q&A questions. Cheryl, do you have one that you've seen you want to start with?
So yes, Donna asks, is it okay to be on GLP-1 and also fasting, like a 36-hour fast a week?
Ooh, that's good.
Oh, that would be really interesting because that would shut down the insulin and prevent you from or allow you to become anabolic. So I imagine so because it doesn't cause low blood sugar, it doesn't cause hypoglycemia. So you could do both. So if you were to think about that, yeah, the food noise goes off and you can fast because hey, you know what? I don't even feel hungry. I'm
Not even
not
tempted.
for a whole week, right? And then it's stimulating that for a whole week and you're not hungry, and it'd be easy to fast for a week. I don't know.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. All right. What about like nutrition effects? I mean, what do you need to pay if you're going to be taking this and you don't have this appetite? I can imagine that your nutrition just tanks. What should you focus on? Clearly protein. And how about are there any supplements that would be good? Carolyn asked that too. Any supplements that you should take when you're using GLP-1s?
Yeah, a multivitamin is a good idea. Getting enough protein is a good idea. There's a couple of things you can do with protein that may prevent the breakdown. I wrote the article in Home Cures at Work, and I discussed, what you could do to perhaps keep your protein up and prevent the breakdown of muscle so much. And one of those is to take 40 grams of protein at night before bed. Now, 40 grams is a lot of protein. That's like 16
Yeah.
ounces of cottage cheese. It's like
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
or if you do protein powders, you can do like 2 scoops of the whey protein and do a protein powder. But you don't want sugar, you don't want glucose, you don't want to induce insulin.
Hmm.
You just want to get the protein in. So the cottage cheese and the research has been done. Using high quality proteins is a important part of this, and what they were saying would be like milk protein. So things like cottage cheese and yogurt and whey protein are good. If you are vegan, then you should have a mixture of like pea protein with rice protein or something like that's complementary. So you have a complete protein because um, uh, uh, um, collagen peptides also works really well because it's really what you're building is connective tissue. And collagen peptides contains the proline. You need a ton of proline to build connective tissue. And most of your meats and dairy and cheese and eggs, they have some proline, but it's not like in large amounts like you get um, with um, collagen peptides.
Mhm.
So collagen peptides are partially digested because you can't digest collagen.
Is that article the one that you wrote about GLP-1s for weight loss? Is that the one you're referring to where you talked about the protein, or was that a different article?
Yeah, no, that's that
Okay,
one.
I've got
Yeah,
that link. I will drop that so everyone can see that for sure.
yeah.
Maybe you answered this or asked, does Dr. Saunders have any updates on last week's reference to consuming 40 grams of protein before bed?
Yeah. We talked about that too. So, and that's what I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
As I research it, it seems like more and more like if you're getting protein without getting carbohydrates before bed, it'll prevent you from losing the proteins that you have. So you keep up your proteins, and you can use the anabolic metabolism to restore protein. while you're sleeping. So during the sleep cycle, you get anabolic metabolism. The GLP-1s inhibit that. So it's probably a good idea to keep that up so that whatever anabolic metabolism you have, you can build up muscle and prevent muscle loss.
Okay. All right. Here is a follow-up question about the fasting. If you are a type 2 and on meds, but not injection insulin, how long can you fast for?
Type 2 and on medications, you have to be careful because the medications, some of them can cause low blood sugar. And so if you're fasting, your blood sugar can drop too low. So if you're fasting, you should not be taking those medications that lower blood sugar for type 2. Even metformin. Another thing about metformin is it prevents you from building muscle. So it's a good idea to stay away from that if you're fasting. And the other thing is the blood pressure can drop too low if you're fasting at the same time taking medication. So you have to be careful with blood pressure medications too, because they could cause hypotension.
Just before we got on, Dr. Saunders was talking about he's going to write about one of our particular supplements. He's doing an article on omegas, which is incredible. It's probably in my opinion, one of his most profound articles about diabetes and omega. It's a twist, not a twist, but something you haven't heard, but an answer to why you need omegas as a diabetic. But he says the next thing he wants to talk about, we'll get to it in a little bit on the webinar, but is lean ACV or apple cider vinegar. So here's a question. One of our first questions today was, if I take diluted ACV before a high carb meal and walk after the meal to reduce glucose spikes, will this also keep my A1C and triglycerides from rising?
Um, Likely, yes. Of course, it depends on what you eat. But even better than that, it keeps your insulin from going too high. So it keeps you from having spikes, like really high levels. And instead, you'll have a sort of a more gradual rise. For both of those things that you're talking about, the apple cider vinegar before meal and then walking after meal, I think that's a great idea. So the part that I didn't answer about the if you have type 2 diabetes, can you fast? I answered about the medications, but the second part of that question was how long can I fast? Um, it's really up to you. It's something that you should work into. Like you start out with a 12-hour fast, then go to an 18-hour fast, and then you can go to a 24-hour fast, do one meal a day a few times, wait a week, and then try a 2-day fast. And your body has to learn how to use fat for energy. It's not something that just is immediate. So if someone were to just go, okay, I'm going to go off all my medications and I'm not going to eat for the next 2 weeks, then they're going to have a miserable 4 days probably. You won't die, but you'll probably be miserable for a few days because your blood sugar is going to drop really low and you're going to get headaches, you're going to get weak, and who knows, nausea, vomiting, all that kind of stuff from a lack of glucose. Because there's several issues involved with that. If your set point is like 150 to 200, all of a sudden you drop to normal, well, that's hypoglycemia. It's relative hypoglycemia. Your brain is seeing hypoglycemia. And so what if you drop to below normal? Then it's like, forget it. It's like, it's not going to work. So working into fasting, starting with part of a day, 12 hours, and working up to a 3-day fast is like, I think, ideal. And the way is use the keto stick and measure the ketones in your urine. And if you get high levels of ketones, then you've done it. Then you're burning fat for energy, and you've trained your body to burn fat for energy.
You talked about the fasting with that statistic that you only lose 9% of, if you're fasting for weight loss, you only lose the 9% of your muscle versus the 40 to 45 if you're taking the GLP-1.
Yeah.
What kind of fasting are you talking? Because I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
What would that look like? I mean, is that
There-
really like what are we looking at here?
A week or 3 days or one
Yeah,
day?
exactly. There's a big difference in my book. 8 hours on, 8 hours off.
Okay, it's any amount of time when you've used up the glycogen in your body. Glycogen is stored glucose. And when you use that up, then your body switches to fat burning metabolism. So, and that's generally between 2 and 3 days. So if you're fasting between 2 and 3 days, but anytime you're losing weight by fasting, you're losing fat. Whereas if you're eating small amounts, you're still making insulin. So that blocks you from using fat. So you start using muscle. And so that's the difference, is not so much the amount of time, but yes, that would mostly include a longer fast after you've used up the glycogen.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. We have a question in the chat. How does the Cleveland Heart Clinic ADMA test reflect heart health? What can be done to reduce the test result to greater than 1 or less than 1 as recommended? Or to 1. Yeah, 1.0. Am I making sense there?
Okay. Okay, so I don't have all the parameters for the ADMA test. But some of it is fats. A lot of it is based on lipids, like ApoB, and cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, HDL. And I think the best way to deal with that is to not deal with that, because there is no relationship between LDL cholesterol and heart disease. That myth has been busted for 20 years now, but it still persists because people like to buy pills. um, so as long as people are going to buy pills, then the pill manufacturer is going to advertise that cholesterol is important. It's not. So the best thing you can do for your health, bar none, is fasting. And whether that's a short fast or a long fast or whatever, that's okay. You get all the peptides, all the anabolic peptides. You get glucagon, you get ghrelin. Ghrelin repairs your brain, like the endorphins in your brain, so you don't feel pain anymore. You Fasting helps make you insulin sensitive. It fixes your liver, the cleansing of your liver. People spend thousands of dollars doing a liver cleanse, and all they need to do is fast. It's free. It's free. And you don't have to spend thousands of dollars doing a liver cleanse. So by far, I had a guy who was his coronary calcium score was like over 1,000, and up to 100 is normal, 400 is high, and he was over 1,000, and he had chest pain, and he was like, his cardiologist said, forget it, you're going to be dead in a month if you don't have this bypass surgery. And he said, I don't want the bypass surgery. It messes up your brain, which is true. That's true. So he said, what else can I do? And we talked about options. And so he decided he was going to fast. So he didn't eat anything, just drank water for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, he had no chest pain. He was playing a full tennis match with no chest pain, and he felt great. So, you know, so much better than bypass surgery. And yet, um, people would rather do bypass surgery.
I know. It's like it's such a hard sell. I feel like, I mean, the people that fast, they know because they feel it, they're like, this is amazing, but it's a hard sell.
It is. It is.
But it's definitely something you are very, I mean, I can see why you're very passionate about it. There are so many benefits.
I just saw that I'm going to read this testimonial that Beryl Ivan just wrote in. I was prescribed Rybelsus, I'm not sure how to say that, for my type 2 diabetes.
Rybelsus.
Thank you. Many things had been tried and did not work. I hated Rybelsus because it made me nauseous all the time, and I lost 18 pounds. I continue to lose weight. In total, I have lost 40 pounds, 152 down to 112. Last May, I started taking your supplements instead of prescriptions. My blood sugar dropped and leveled out. A1C went from 8.9 to 7.5, and I'm expecting better results next time. My weight has leveled off. 76-year-old female.
Wow.
Wow.
I love
That's
that.
great.
Beryl.
Yeah. So that drop in hemoglobin A1C is significant.
I would be interested to know, Beryl, what supplements you're taking. If you would drop that in the chat, I would love to know that.
Yeah.
We have another supplement request question.
It's interesting though. Rybelsus is a GLP-1. It works on the GLP-1 receptor.
Well, like you said, they get nauseous
Yeah,
sometimes.
and that's what he got.
Just okay. So James asks, should I stop metformin now that I'm on insulin, 10 micrograms?
Um, well, if you need insulin, then yes, you need insulin. You could also use metformin, and so that could be useful, but it depends on the big picture. How much insulin do you make? Does your pancreas work? If your pancreas is working a little and you're taking some insulin, like diabetes type 1.5, then metformin might be helpful for that. Generally, I would say instead of metformin, use the synochroma and berberine. So we have both synochroma and berberine, and those can work as well or better than metformin without any of the side effects. You can still maintain your muscle mass.
And do the diabetes solution kit.
And do the diabetes solution.
That's right.
That's the long-term cure.
Absolutely. We had a question about our healthy heart supplement. Elaine wants to know if the healthy heart supplement that we sell cleans out the arteries. Can you tell us a little bit about how healthy heart works and what some of the benefits might be if someone was to take that and how long, that would take, that kind of thing?
Okay. Boy, wouldn't that be nice if it was like something that would just like roto-rooter out and clean out
Yes.
the arteries. Okay, that's not what it does. It's a supplement to help people who have heart disease to overcome that so that they can, with the other parts of the healthy heart solution kit, to have a healthy heart. And so the supplements in there are things that help the blood pressure lower, for example, the beetroot extract, and to help the stress level, because that's, the single biggest factor for heart disease is stress. And so yeah, there's some ashwagandha in there. So things that will help the heart to function better or help you on your path to getting a healthy heart. And so it's an assist, and it's not like there's no pills. And even when they put stents in and stuff like that, that's not a long-term solution. I had a guy yesterday that had 8 stents put in, and the doctor said, "Well, just put another stent in, and then just always put another stent in." They just kept putting stents in, and they didn't say, "Gosh, these statins aren't working." They never said that. They just kept them on the stent. In fact, they upped the dose of the statin, and then he got another stent put in, and then he got another one. Can you imagine 8 stents? And that didn't even work because the stents started getting clogged. So that's not a long-term solution either. Really, the long-term solution, the Healthy Heart Solution Kit, go through the kit and then take the supplement. But the supplement isn't like Roto-Rooter; it doesn't take it out.
All right, Debbie asks a great question. How do I know if my pancreas is working?
Huh, that's a good question. You test. And your doctor should be able to test the glucose, which is usually in the metabolic panel, hemoglobin A1C, that's the long-term glucose, and then insulin level and C-peptide level. And lately, because of the GLP-1s, I've been doing another test um, on the glucagon. So you can do a glucagon peptide test as well and see where that is. So if you have the insulin to glucagon ratio is kind of important too. And the glucagon comes from your pancreas as well. So those tests can tell you how your pancreas is functioning.
And then Carolyn asks, or just says, my doctor told me I should be on a statin when taking Trulicity.
Uh-huh. Well, the statin doesn't make it any better. I disagree. Yeah, well, you have to think of what a medical doctor is. A medical doctor is not somebody who's an expert in health. It's just somebody who is a salesman for drug companies. And so, you know, that's what you do when you're selling something. You say, "Oh, I recommend you use this."
All right. While he was chatting there, I did put in the code or I put in the link for Healthy Heart Support Plus if you're interested in checking that out on our website, as well as we do have a special code you can use to save 25% off, and that's Saunders 25.
That's me,
Cheryl,
and
yes,
I'm
that's
only 25 years old.
that's right. Cheryl, can you put the link for the Healthy Heart Solution Kit in there? Do you have that by chance? That's a really good one. It really, yeah. And Diabetes Solution Kit too, because we're talking about, the weight loss and the carbs. Maybe that would be great to put in there. We did have some confirmation from Beryl earlier. I had asked what supplements. Beryl's the one that had the good weight loss and blood sugar dropping and all that. Let's see. It's taking just about all of them. I need the Healthy Heart and the Healthy Gut Restore as well. Synochroma, berberine, turmeric, nervala, omega, lean ACV. And he loves fiber greens. Ah, yes, fiber greens. Excellent, excellent. All right. Okay, so then we did have a follow-up question about the pancreas. What tests do you recommend to see if it's producing enough?
Okay, so insulin, C-peptide, and glucagon are a good. Those are pancreatic. They are proteins that come out of the pancreas. And then you need to know what your blood sugar, glucose at the same time, because that tells you if you're insulin resistant or not.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we are almost out of time here. Cheryl, I know you had a final question.
Yes. And this is, I finish my thoughts inside my head before I speak. Jody had put in the link to Dr. Saunders' article about GLP-1s and weight loss. We'll have to put that in again, but he talks about some of the fads that have been around that people definitely took a part of. Fen-phen was one of them, a weight loss fad. Then they had amphetamines. So what would you say as like the caution to GLP-1s, or what should we ask now before we find out it's not a good long-term solution or possibly damaging 10 years down the road? What would you say now to think about before you would take GLP-1s?
Mhm.
Um, is this something that I'm looking for to be a long-term solution, or is it something that's a short-term solution? In other words, am I going to use this short-term, or do I plan to use this long-term? Because it's not a long-term solution. It stops working after a year anyway, and then you gain it all back. So you have to say, what's the use if you're thinking about it long-term? As a short term, I'm like my patient. I'm gonna take the food noise out of my head. That's one thing for a short period of time, and let me get on top of this. And I've had a couple of people do that, and one of them, or two of them now, have been successful with just using it short term to take food noise out and then start on the path. Um, and that's been okay. So I think if you're looking at this as something that's long term, it just doesn't make sense to do that.
Probably the rule of thumb, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If it makes it too easy, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like when it started, it was just for people who are overweight or had diabetes. But now people who want to lose 5 pounds go on it. They offer it to everybody. But what would you say to someone who's really struggled, who, done the exercise,
Yeah.
lose weight, has tried keto diet, can't lose weight? What would you tell
Yeah.
them?
Is there anyone that you would say, I think you should do this?
Um, yeah, actually. Um, okay, so I know somebody. It's a family member who has diabetes and who has had diabetes for quite a while. He's had low blood sugars from using insulin and drinking all of his diet drinks and then not eating. And so he's making a lot of insulin and injecting insulin and getting hypoglycemia from it. Um, and if he could get started, losing 20 pounds might be a big deal for him, and he wouldn't have to inject insulin anymore. Because we know his pancreas makes insulin. We had him do the test. So, there might be a use for that kind of thing, a GLP-1 agonist to um, uh, get somebody who has type 2 to get off of insulin. That would be a kind of scenario that I might use it for.
Okay. That's great information. All right, we are almost to the top of the hour. Any last burning thoughts you have, Dr. Saunders, on GLP-1s for weight loss or anything before you get back?
Yeah. I think looking at weight loss from the big picture and saying, I don't want to lose weight. I just want to lose fat. And,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you look at it from that point of view, then the way to do that is to do periods of time of fasting. And it takes a while to work into that. It's not something that somebody should just go, okay, starting today, I'm not going to eat for 30 days. Although I did have several patients do that. But it was an emergency. They had to. It's something that you learn about. You read books on it. You go on the Mindy Pell's website and you read other people's experiences and you go, oh, I can do that. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I can do that. And you start getting an idea, and then you go, okay, you know what? I think I'm ready. I'm going to set a date and I'm going to try an 18-hour fast. I'm just going to have one meal tomorrow, and that's all, and see how I do. And then, wow, that wasn't so hard. I'm going to do that again, and so I've had people do that. Start with that. Okay, I'm just going to see if I can do one meal. Oh, well, then I'll just put you one meal tomorrow. Oh, I just went with meal, and they were having one meal a day and losing weight and doing really well. So working into it and finding out the way that works best for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and starting small and increasing as you go, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Saunders, for your time. We will be back here next week we're going to talk more specifically about GLP-1s and diabetes. So there's more information to come on that. So thank you, Dr. Saunders. Have a great day. While he was finishing up with that and answering his last question, we've got a lot of links we've dropped in the chat. I did put that link to that Home Cures That Works article in there again as well. And then I also put a link in for something that we offer. It's for a link to schedule a coaching session. Cheryl, you want to
Yeah,
tell them
Dr.
about that?
Sandra was just talking about finding what works for you. And sometimes if you're trying too hard by yourself and nothing's helping, then the next best thing is finding a coach. And so we do offer a free coaching session. to help talk about your nutrition goals, about supplements, health challenges. And they help you find a game plan to actually help what works for you. And especially right now, as people are thinking about the grand new year, the grand new me, this might be helpful. You'll find a community of support, not just an individual, but you will be able to find more resources, more accountability to help you reach your goals. And we all need help every once in a while, so there's no shame in asking. So use the link that we provided to speak to a health coach and actually get somewhere with your health goals that you have this year.
Absolutely. That accountability helps and just making sense of it. There's a lot of information that's thrown. Oh my goodness. There's just so much information to digest. And just to have somebody sit down and make that plan is, oh, that's like very, yeah, that's a really good thing. So absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Cheryl. All right. So I just want to remind you that you can hop on over to YouTube and search for the Barton webinar if you want to rewatch this episode or if you want to search for any other episodes. We've got a lot of great information out there. And I will be sure to get this one uploaded after we wrap up today. And then we'll share those links in the description of that episode. So if you want to go back for any of those, for those of you who commented PDF, I will be emailing the Barton Healthy Plate out to you in a little while this afternoon. So thanks everyone for coming, and we will see you back here next week.
Yeah, hopefully with the same people from Amsterdam and Ecuador and
Yes,
Iowa and Florida. Yes, love having.
absolutely. I love seeing, yes, we are very well represented, aren't we? Around the world and around the country. All right, everybody, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Hi all.
Bye.